This is an account of a person named Dante Latus, who led the most eventful and dramatic life in the history of the empire. She was abandoned as a child, her father as a crown prince. He had no intention of taking responsibility for a child that resulted from a casual fling. Her mother, a musician, abandoned her in a faraway city, when she realized that her father had turned his back on them both. In essence, she was raised by the beggars, harlots and street urchins of the city. When she was little, she ate the food that others had discarded. And when she got a little older, she stole what she could from the marketplace. And that's how she managed to survive day after day. The year she turned 12 proved to be a turning point in her life. At Swordsmanship Academy, a man noticed that she came every day. He offered her a chance to try swinging around a sword herself. She was delighted to hear this, then told him that she had no money. He knew this, but he told her to try anyway. He told her if she was good enough, he may take her on as a student and teach her free of charge. She was pretty sure the instructor told her that as a passing joke. But his smiles soon faded, when he saw that her talent was too brilliant to ignore. He quickly took the opportunity and asked if she would like to learn swordsmanship from him. That's when she realized her life as a beggar was finally over. He asked her name and she told him she didn't have one. So he named her Dante from that moment on. He smiles warmly and tells her if anyone asks who her instructor is, she must tell them his name. That's how she became the instructor's adoptive daughter. He taught her to the best of his ability, and she worked furiously to learn it all. It sounds like a moving tale, but in reality every single day of her life was filled with grueling training sessions that amounted to abuse. However, she didn't run away. Enduring those training sessions was 100 times better than enduring the cold and hunger on the streets. The year she turned 19, her instructor died. All of his inheritance naturally went to his children and she didn't receive a single coin. She cursed his name as she was the only one who took care of him in his final days. From that point on, money became her only goal. One day she took the opportunity to try out for the recruitment poster for swordsmanship tournament participation. She wrote her name down because she was determined to not go back to her former life as a beggar. With this admirable mindset, she won the prizes of these tournaments, hunted down monsters and earned a huge pile of bounty money for herself, and even joined a mercenary band to fight in the war and distinguish herself in times of great battles. After she sealed away the evil dragon Krusich, she realized she had become a famous heroine, or perhaps something even bigger than that. She was very famous among the people, everyone loved her. She was getting marriage proposals and was known as the strongest in the continent. Everyone wanted her to join their organization. She was the hottest celebrity that everyone recognized no matter where she went. Since she is this popular, she had the idea that she could probably start a country of her own. The year she turned 23, she was summoned by the emperor. That's right, her father, the emperor. After so long, he smugly told his daughter that he was giving her permission to take the imperial name of Latus as her own and join the imperial family. This is the result of her carrying something that she considered to be silly all her life, not knowing what it was, but it turned out to be the imperial family crest. People notice it when she rose to fame and the secret of her origins were revealed. She thinks that she should have tossed it out a long time ago. She then boldly asked what's in it for her. The emperor is flabbergasted. Her father had irresponsibly had about 15 or so children. They were definitely quantity over quality. However, they were getting to be a headache for the emperor. She informs him that there are many people who want her, so he can't really expect her to join his family without any incentive. She knows her father must have been really happy when he found out that she is his daughter. He shouts if she doesn't know how great of an honor it is to be part of the imperial family. She tells him she wouldn't know about that. She asks if she's getting a little something or not. He clenches his face and asks what does she want. He states if she wants to be the crown princess. She rubs her fingers and exclaims she's not interested in the imperial throne. She tells him she wants an independent territory of her own with a manor of her own. 10 million gold coins. She also wants 10 horses, permission to have an army. The emperor's jaw drops. He asked if she wants more. She puts her finger to his lips. She tells him she's giving him the deal of century because she is his daughter. If he wants to use her name for the imperial family, it has to be worth her while. He holds back the urge to curse at her with great difficulty. He then accepted her proposal. He really should have been good to her when she was born. She proudly states that she will lend her renown to the imperial family. That's how the deal, which would be remembered in history for a long time, was made. Of course, historical records pretty up the instant so its Latus family could save face. But it wouldn't have mattered even if her father had turned her down. She had nothing to lose. However, her father had been falling in popularity with his subjects and she was someone he couldn't afford to let go. The best swordwoman in the continent, who's at the peak of her fame, turned out to be a member of Latus family. He couldn't bear to pass up the chance to have such a dramatic story be a part of his legacy. Essentially, she was going to live out the rest of her life without worrying about where her next meal or outfit was going to come from. However, her half-siblings found her to be an eyesore. Although she had turned down her father's offer to be his successor, they still tried every trick in the book to try and get rid of her. It was getting to be a huge nuisance, so in a fit of anger she decided to become the Empress Regnant. And that's how the penniless street urchin, went through countless hardships, became the Empress Regnant of the Empire and lived a life of luxury for the rest of her life. Her life has a perfect narrative arc. If someone had written a biography on her, it would have been a bestseller. It's too bad that she died at young age of 33. But it wasn't a bad life. She fiercely lived every moment and did her absolute best at every turn. She experienced all kinds of things and got everything she wanted. Even if she lived another lifetime, she doubted she could live as diligently as she did in this one. She had no regrets. She lived her life to the fullest and went out with a bang. But she was reborn 500 years later. She reincarnated as a girl with brilliant silver hair and a sparkling sapphire eyes. She is the beloved youngest daughter of Duke Fesca's household. Helena Fesca. She was unfortunately born with all of her memories of her past life intact, which made her current life seem dull and uninteresting. In the first 10 years of her second life she was called mature from a young age. Because unlike her peers she was calm and smart and she didn't cause any problems. She read books on road horses without being taught, and figured out all the ordinarily difficult things on her own. She was a pride and joy of her household, at least that's how she should have felt, but she feels that living is no fun. Everything she tried is boring and she doesn't have any enthusiasm for anything, for her life is tedious. Her parents overheard this and were shocked. They confronted her, telling her she's too young to feel that way. She exclaimed that it's the truth. Her father nervously states if she keeps looking she will come across something she's interested in. Her mother tells her they'll support her in whatever she wants to try to do. Her new parents are the complete opposite of the one she had in her previous life. And she still have a hard time getting used to their love. She wanted to tell them to let her be and eventually figure it out, but they'll probably be even more discouraged if that's the reply she gave them. They hold her hand and tell her that life is long. However, she remembers about the time she kicked the bucket at an early age. She smiles and tells them she'll try to have a bit more vigor for life from now on. They laugh and ask to be notified of when she finds something she's interested in. Her attempts to banish their worries is good, but it won't be enough to completely get rid of them. She lived her past life so diligently that she doesn't know if it's even possible to do better than that. But now that she has to go through another lifetime, it's only natural that everything is boring for her. She falls on the bed and tries to understand why was she reborn. The next day in the afternoon her brother Leonard asks if she's trying to find something to pique her interest. She tells him she's pretending to search for one. He seems surprised by her lack of vigor. He exclaimed that he has no choice but to take care of her until she's old and gray. She gives him a weak smile and states that he's very dependable. She finds him adorable that he's so confident for a 13-year-old. She believes the biggest strength of her household is not raw power but Leonard's cuteness. She thinks her brother is the most adorable thing in the world. She noticed the sword and asked him about it. He tells her that he has swordplay lessons in a bit. He exclaims that the instructor was recommended to them by an acquaintance of their father. Her eyes locked in on him and she inquires if he's enjoying his lessons. He nervously states that he's finding it a bit difficult to understand. She can't understand this as Leonard is a pretty smart kid. And he's the kind of hard-working boy who studies on his own. She asked how far is he in the lesson. He tells her he is not sure. He told her that he has to grasp the concepts on his own. So they've just been sparring the whole time, from start to finish. She's surprised that an instructor would take a complete novice on start off with sparring. It's a weird way to teach a swordplay. She becomes suspicious of what kind of guy he is, so she asks him if she can sit in and watch during their lesson. He smiles brightly and exclaims of course. That afternoon in the second-floor hall of the ducal manor, Leonard walks with his sister happily. She states that he must be looking forward to his lesson. He reveals that it's rare for her to show interest in anything. He tells her if she's interested in swordmanship, they could learn together. Unfortunately, he has completely misunderstood her, but swordmanship is one of the things she has zero interest in. She's sick of the sword. She only came along because she wanted to know what kind of instructor was teaching her adorable brother such strange swordplay. His instructor arrives and Leonard greets him. If he is a con artist, she will teach him a lesson he'll never forget for daring to trick her brother. The instructor introduces himself as Betty Threr, swordplay instructor. Seeing his cringe introduction, her face becomes icy. She can't stand the way he looks, and her patience already reaching its limit. She just wants to punch him in his face. However, she gracefully bows and introduces herself. He smiles and states that she's free to watch, but if she's interested in swordplay, he states that he would like to discourage her from pursuing it. In a mockingly tone, he exclaimed that swords are very dangerous, and that women on swords don't go together. She asked if he saying Empress Regnant Dante Latus was a man. He laughs and exclaimed that she was a special case. She might as well have been a mutant. He states that many of her accomplishments were greatly exaggerated. She smiles, holding back her anger inside. She doesn't want to get offended by someone born 500 years after her, but he isn't making it easy. He takes out his sword and wipes it off and states that swords are for men. She burns with fury and wonders what's the best way to punch him and feel better. Suddenly Leonard speaks up and states that whatever his sister chooses to take interesting is none of his business. His instructor looks down at him with his condescending eyes. Helena is proud of her adorable brother. The instructor mocks him and states that he's full of confidence today. Also that a strength he never had is suddenly surging through him because his sister is there. He points his sword at Leonard. He laughs and states that if he wants to contradict him then he'll have to defeat him first. Leonard's face becomes red and he lowers his gaze. Seeing this, the instructor laughs and says that they should begin the lesson. He walks away and exclaims that they have a long way to go so they can be playing around like this. She wonders if that's really something an instructor should say to a greenhorn who started taking lessons just a month ago. And it's not just anyone he's talking about either. He had just embarrassed Leonard, the person who's going to take care of her until she's old and gray. That's unforgivable. She stares at him with a deadly gaze. She wonders to herself how shall she beat him. Before the sparring session began, Leonard's self-esteem was shot down. And the whole match was just a series of one-sided wins by the instructor. He laughed at Leonard and explained that Helena is watching him. Leonard is panting and sweating a lot. He tries to get back on his feet. She realized that the instructor has Leonard in the palm of his hand and is enjoying humiliating him. If a person doesn't look too closely, he may appear to be a Super B instructor passionately teaching his student. But he can't fool her. After some time, the instructor exclaims that they should take a break. He's sweating a lot and panting a lot as well, but he's trying to pretend that he's not tired. She can tell that he has lessons from one person or another in the past. His swordplay is full of weak spots. If he was on the battlefield, he's the kind of guy who will fail around with his sword by himself and get killed. If he actually was a skilled swordman, she was going to take him someplace quiet and thrash him. But she doesn't think there would be a need with a guy like him. She weighs her brother over, she places her hand on her brother's shoulders and looks him in the eyes and asks if he trusts her. He clasps her hand and exclaims of course. She whispers to him that in his next match, he should keep a close eye on his instructor's feeds. She informs him that there will be a moment during the deal where he steps little too far out with his left leg. She points at his side and states that's where he must strike. Leonard looks unsure for a moment, but she assures him that he can do it. He blushes and seems to be assured that he has the capability to do it. The instructor looks at his nails and asks if they're finished talking as their break has already ended. Leonard walks towards him with a fierce determination. They take their stance preparing for a battle. Seeing the fierce look in his face, the instructor tauntingly asks if his sister gave him a few words of encouragement. She smiles knowing that it will have a great effect. The instructor swings his sword, but Leonard blocks a rapid barrage of strikes coming his way. The instructor smiles, enjoying every moment as he thinks that these children just ceaselessly challenge him and they have no idea how scary adults can be. He plans to beat the spirit out of him during the match. His tracks become more ruthless than before, not even giving Leonard a moment to look at his feet. Suddenly he sees his feet and sees an opportunity as he goes in for the finishing blow. The instructor is unaware that being on a rampage is making his weakness even more visible. Leonard will have several chances to get it right. Leonard strikes his weak spot on the first try and his little sister is thrilled. His instructor shrieks in pain. The instructor falls to the ground and Helena is ecstatic. She feels great and wonders if that's how her former instructor felt when he taught her. Helena congratulates him for winning. The instructor is serious and accuses him of cheating. Helena bluntly tells him that she doesn't know swordwoman on her brother as a beginner. They don't know any tricks, so they couldn't resort to any even if they wanted to. He shouts that he wants her to stay out of a man's business. She then realizes that he's beyond saving. She takes Leonard's sword, and points it at the instructor and states that he should come at her. She tells him she's going to show her why he lost to her brother. He laughs and tells her not to blame him if she gets hurt. It's extremely unsightly how excited he is at the prospect of winning against a 10-year-old girl. So much that all of his vulnerability are in plain sight. He charges at her and she dodges. She tells Leonard to watch closely. She tells him blocking a strike head-on is a waste of energy. She counters his attack, causing him to lose balance. He underestimated her because she's a child, and though he could clobber her with his laughable skills, that's not going to happen. She turned her arm and used her sword to deflect her opponent's blade. And she waited for the moment when he's thrown off balance. She strikes him in the abdomen. She kicks him away with brute force. All this instructor wanted was to show off his superiority to a beginner, nothing more. He had no desire to teach swordplay. He received Leonard and taught him nothing but humiliation. She tells the instructor that was too easy and his face becomes red. Whether it be her past life or the present, she will destroy anyone who messes with someone precious to her. She smiles and states that he may think she's cruel saying this, but him and swords don't go together. Also that he should lay down such a dangerous weapon and take up embroidery instead. He was shaken by her words. She flings the sword in the air, causing him to flinch. He looks at the sword with his eyes bulging. She turned around telling him he's fired. The sword then hits him on his head. He rolls around in pain. She informs Leonard that she will teach him swordplay from now on. It seems she has finally found what she wants to do in this life. Upon informing her parents of this happy news, unsurprisingly they were shocked and refused to give her a permission to do so. A week later, in the library, Helena's father revealed he had hired someone to look into the swordmanship instructor she had fired. He apparently had flunked a number of times while he was attending that prestigious school. The acquaintance who recommended him to him had apologized several times for his mistake. He lowers his head in despair and states, he had faith in the establishment's renowned history, but he almost became a victim to the other deceitful reputation. The house of Fesca is not a martial household, so when it comes to swordsmanship, her father must have had complete faith in his acquaintances' introductions. So he had no idea that the instructor was so unskilled that a 10-year-old girl could defeat him. Helena smiles and assures him that they were lucky to fire him early on before Leonard became saddled with bad habits. Her father states that they are aware that she's not prone to talk nonsense. She interrupts him and states that she's aware that she has not learned swordsmanship herself and it makes no sense that she wants to teach it. He exclaims that's exactly what he's talking about. But since she's found something she wants to do, he offers her a proposal. A guest will be coming to the territory next week. This distinguished gentleman is around Leonard's age. So he requests her to teach Leonard so that he's good enough to spar against their visitor. Since it's her adorable fast-learning brother, she believes it's very doable. But only a moment after that thought popped up in her head, she realized that this wasn't a proposal, but a challenge. Prince Caesar will be staying with them in their estates for the summer, and he wants her to demonstrate her skills she possesses. The blood drains from her face, because to have Leonard win against the prince is the most preposterous thing that has ever happened in her second life. He has had lessons in the imperial city and imperial statecraft. There's a huge difference in how long the two boys have been taught swordsmanship on the environment they grew up in. She wonders if her father has too much faith in her or if he wants her to fail right away so that she'll give up without a grudge. Leonard mentioned the prince's red eyes and states that everyone in the royal family has those red eyes. She recollects that she had passed on the throne to her best friend Duke Erez Grey. She clearly remembered his crimson eyes with which he gazed at her. Helena and Leonard bowed and greeted the prince. She takes notice of his remarkable similarity to Erez. He turns his head and states that he doesn't need an insincere greeting from them. She believes that he's an arrogant child, but she admits the greeting was an insincere one. Normally she would have carried on as if she hadn't heard, but she decided to pursue the conversation. In a cold tone she asked what kind of greeting he had wished to receive. The prince is startled to hear her backlash. She extends her hand and states that if he's displeased with a hollow welcome, if this will satisfy him. The room becomes silent and everyone is shocked. The blood drained from her parents' face. He snaps and exclaims, how dare she? Before things can escalate, Hamilton exclaims that she has approached him in such an intimate manner and it is a relief. He holds their hand together and states they should make friends. He sobs and apologizes for touching his eminently hand. He exclaimed that they should all get along together. He sneer then exclaims that they should be on good terms for the next few months. She thinks that he has backed off, but he grips her hand and squeezes it. In an attempt to overpower her with his strength, he smiles and she remains calm. Her eyes glint with mischief. She places her hand at a specific place and cracks his bones. He screams in pain. He grips his hands that have become red and the butlers rush to his aid. He exclaimed that it's nothing while blushing. He then walks away, his face red like a tomato. Even if she hadn't agreed to her father's proposal, she thinks she still would have wanted to crush him. She will annihilate him if he gets smart with her one more time. But he thinks that he'll get his revenge very soon. Later on, her mother anxiously informs her that she cannot treat the prince as one of her peers. With teary eyes she exclaims that he must be having it rough because of his mother's death. She pleaded with her to please be kind with him. She nods and exclaims that she'll keep that in mind. However, she thought her first meeting with Caesar went well. The empress passed away from an illness last winter and left the prince heartbroken. The emperor took pity on him and sent him there so that he could be consoled by the gentle souls of this estate. That's the official narrative, but the truth was a different story. The imperial palace probably does not yet possess a powerful enough faction that can protect the young prince. The emperor must have sent Caesar away so that he can deal with those who oppose the prince. She wonders why he's such a jerk if that is his current circumstance. She decides to only beat him up in secluded places free from the adults' prying eyes. She loosens her shoulder, then meets the prince, who asked if her mother had scolded her. She wonders if he was waiting for her, but her mother had lectured her for over an hour. She tells him yes. He tells her she doesn't have to worry as he wasn't bothered. She responds that she wasn't bothered by her attitude either. So he shouldn't worry about it. He shouts that she should worry. Or she'll come to a bad end one day if she keeps treating her superiors like that. Helena then states if not for her household, he would be in a terrible situation right now. He pauses. She looks at him knowingly as he lowers his head. He hesitates, then states that he waited for her because he wanted to sort out the misunderstanding between them. She wonders why he's acting like a silent lamb as they had made an oath with their handshake to tear each other to pieces. He stared at the tunnelway and sees a figure of a maiden. The boys scream and Helena seems barely affected. The two grab her and begins to run away. Leaving her slippers behind, she is grateful that they were kind enough to take her with them despite their fear. But thanks to the ruckus, everyone in the household found out that they went into the cellar. They were later made to sit on their knees with their hands in the air. No one believed them about the ghost. Helena tells them that she thought about it dozens of times and believed it was a mirage. Caesar states that's only seen in the desert. She explains that drastic difference in temperature in an area can create a mirage. It doesn't have to be a desert, and the cellar was the perfect place for that. Leonard hopes she is right, but suddenly a thought came to Caesar's mind. He tells her there's something that she missed. A mirage is a reflected image of an object located elsewhere caused by the refraction of light. She states that it could be a reflection of a portrait or something. He exclaims no, as there weren't any portrait in the cellar. There wasn't anything down there that would create a reflection like that. Helena feels goosebumps down her arm. The lightning strikes and they were all horrified. The boys and her clenched each other's trembling hands. As they spend the night apologizing and begging the ghost for forgiveness. Later on, Hamilton happily explains that it was just the reflection of the tiles in the waterway. The waterway is lined with blue and white mosaic tiles. He brightly smiles and asked if they really thought it was a ghost. He laughs and states that they made a great memory. And that's how they came to share an embarrassing memory. They got very close after that event and there was a tacit agreement to never divulge this humiliating episode to anyone. Years down the line, when others ask them about the origin of their friendship, this is the day that comes to their mind, but they never spoke the events of this day to anyone. Never, not once, around the time when Caesar's arm was fully healed. This summer solstice festival took place in Alpentis. Where the Fesca ducal manor was located, Caesar sits on a tree branch and asked if they've been to the festival and how was it. Helena tells him to stop getting in the way of her lessons and go away. He hops down and asks if she doesn't want to go to the festival. She exclaims no. She explains that there are 3 types of people who loves festivals: kids, pickpockets and kid pickpockets. Caesar reminds her that she's the youngest kid amongst them. Leonard tells him that Alpentis is a rural region so there isn't much to see. However, Caesar is curious about the Commoners' Festival as he's never been to one. Also, Hamilton doesn't let him go outside. Leonard suggests that they all go together and he may get permission. Helena tells them to leave her out of it as it is a bother. Helena states that anything that doesn't involve teaching Leonard swordsmanship is a bother. Caesar exclaimed that he feels sorry that she is Leonard's instructor. Leonard tells him not to say that as Helena is an incredible instructor. She then threateningly states that she's not going to the festival. Even if someone puts a knife to her neck, she isn't going. Sometime later her head is throbbing as she arrives at the festival. They dragged Hamilton all the way there but they left him behind. Because they know he won't be able to see a thing if they go on the offensive and demand to know why he couldn't keep up with them. Helena inquires why his mind works in such a diabolical way and if he doesn't feel sorry for poor Hamilton. Caesar then states that he nags him for every little thing. And he's a nuisance. She gets why this kid is so frustrated, but she also understands why Hamilton acts the way he does. He knows danger lurks around every corner, and someone is following them right now. She has sensed a certain presence from the time they got separated from Hamilton. They're a group of well-dressed children wandering around without a chaperone. So it was only a matter of time before they were targeted by some villain. She wondered who that person could be, a pickpocket or whatever. She turns her head and their eyes meet. It's a blonde man with green eyes and fair skin. She quickly avoids his gaze and realizes that he is not staring at them, but at her. He then turns into the alleyway and she chases after him. The boys ask what's wrong. She tells them that she'll be back soon and they should wait for her. Upon reaching the alleyway, she sees nothing, but it's just a long alleyway, so she wonders how he got away. He then appears behind her. He bows and introduces himself as Noe. She flinches, then backs away quickly. She wonders how he got behind her. He blushes and revealed that he wanted to meet her very much, and that she's grown to be such a beautiful young lady. She has never met this man before. She doesn't believe he intends to hurt her, but she wonders if he's a pervert. He begins to cry and states that he's been waiting so long for her to be born. She's his deity, his savior, as one true monarch. She is shocked by his outrageous words. He questions why time passes by so slowly, and he can't but despise his weak, crumbling body. Suddenly the boys scream her name. He gets up, wiping the tears from his face, and states that her friends are searching for her. She seems nervous. He tells her they'll meet again before he draws his last breath. She tried to chase after him because she needs to understand. She wonders if he knows that she was Dante in her previous life. Caesar grabs her arm and tells her that it's dangerous. However, before she even realized, the man had disappeared into thin air, leaving her flabbergasted. Caesar inquired who was that man and what he did to her. She tells him he did nothing to her. He shouts that he could tell something was off when he got there. She becomes annoyed and states that he only asked her for directions and she helped him find his way. They seem stunned by her explanation. She wonders if it was too weak of an excuse. She asked him to let go before they continue, as he is hurting her. He releases her arm on Leonard, asks if she's sure he didn't do anything to her. She assures them that she is fine. She glances at where he disappeared and wondered if he's still in the area. Caesar suggests that they join up with Hamilton. Helena states that they ran away and they don't even know where he is. Caesar explains that whenever he runs off, Hamilton waits for him at the place where they first started. Caesar exclaims that he'll go get Hamilton. She suggests that Leonard goes with him as well. If Noe is still around, she'd like to talk to him a bit longer while she's alone. Caesar becomes angry and states that she wants to follow another stranger who tells her to follow them for cookies. She exclaimed that he was asking for direction. Caesar states that he'll go by himself and they should wait for him there. He runs off. They feels like they ended up ordering Caesar around. He pats Helena on her head and asked if she's sure nothing happened. She tells him that she swear, and he gave no indication of wanting to hurt her. Leonard says that he was worried something happened to her because they dragged her there to the festival against her will. He embraces her in a warm hug and she thinks he's such an angel. She thinks he's better than the other punk who gets angry when things doesn't go his way. She assures herself that Noe was rambling nonsense and he was just some random guy who had lost his mind. Also, he was icky like an insect, but the presence that had been following them has disappeared. Upon realizing this, she is shocked. If someone had been waiting for a chance to get to her, this is the perfect chance since there's no one else around. But if their presence disappear after Caesar left it only means that Caesar is in danger. It would have been obvious if she had only given it a moment thought. But she got complacent. She's just a duke's daughter, an insignificant person in this world. Meanwhile, although Caesar doesn't hold much power, he's still the first in line to the throne. Who would a crook go after? They probably took him away to a brothel. They don't operate during the day. So it's easier to hide a person there. She told Leonard to go fetch Hamilton. While she heads to the brothel, Leonard tells her it's too dangerous. She states if Caesar's been taken elsewhere, she needs to rush over to another location. Leonard holds her and offers to go. She tells him that he runs faster than her, so it will be better for him to get Hamilton. Since she's never told him nonsense, she tells him he has to trust her. Leonard told her to promise that she wouldn't do anything dangerous. But she is the last person that wants to get herself in a dangerous situation. If something bad happens to Caesar today, their family would be completely ruined. She plans to calmly and carefully make sure the prince is safe and wait for the Viscount to arrive. She walks slowly in the area, then she hears a shuddering sound from an alley on the left. She noticed it's coming from a building. It's too dangerous to go in the front door. So she go to the back. She takes out an hairpin and open the door. Inside the room, people are discussing the easiest way to get rid of someone. They are planning to make it look like an accident. One of them suggests throwing him into the river as it's flooded because the rain season just ended. So it will look like he got carried away by the current while he was playing near the stream. Overhearing in their plan, she realized that this is no ordinary abduction. She doesn't know who's behind the scheme, but if they're planning on tossing him into the river, they'll probably make their move at night. Hamilton will get there before that. So they just have to sit tight and wait. Caesar shouts that if they touch him, death will be the only thing that awaits them. One of them kicks a box beside him and asks if he doesn't understand what's happening. They believe it would be a huge nuisance if he doesn't drown and make it out of the river alive. So they suggest taking him out right now. His loud voice had helped her find his location. But they can't wait until Hamilton gets there, so she'll lure one of them outside and deal with the other guy. Then she'll get Caesar out of this place. She takes a chair and throws it on the ground, catching her attention. One of them rushed to find the cause of that sound. She holds a piece of wood in her hand. She knows she can't hit his vital point immediately because of their height difference. So she'll strike his knees first, and before he knows it, she knocks him out. She stands over him victoriously. With teary eyes, Caesar calls her name. She grabs him and tells him they need to get out of there before the other guy returns. Suddenly the other guy spots them and she tells him to run the other way. They run at full speed and the man runs behind them. Even if they're in a dragon's lair, they say you can make it out alive as long as you keep your wits about you. It will be easier to escape these men once they're outside. Suddenly she noticed the door opening and thinks that it's Leonard. But instead it's a tall man with a scar on his lip. The guy chasing them tells him to grab them. The giant man takes out his sword after realizing they were trying to escape. She is stunned. She grips the stick in her hand. He exclaims that they'll never think of escaping again because their life will be over. Caesar blocks the sword attack with his back. He tells her to run away. To her shock, she holds onto him as they falter to the ground. Her hands feel sticky, then she'd notice it's covered red. Her face becomes red with rage. The guy then grabs her hair and asks where did she come from. In an instant Helena strikes his arm. He grabs it and yells in pain. The giant is shocked. Caesar slowly loses consciousness and she states that she wanted to live peacefully in this lifetime, but these guys ruined it all, so now they're dead meat.